Johnny will be back with us in just 1 second, and Philip will be calling in, I believe. He was calling in. I hope all's well. We had him on the line, and then we lost him. Hopefully we're okay. There wasn't an air raid siren or anything. It is an active war zone. So, yeah, there he is. Okay, he's joining us. Phew! I was getting the nervous. There he is. I'm going to add him to my screen left just because he's here. Hey, there he is.
Sorry about that.
No, it happens. Fear not. Johnny stepped out for a second, so this is kind of perfect. Everybody, Philip Ittner, everybody. Philip's in Lviv.
Oh, sorry, I'm only here for your last 45 minutes, but it was for a very good reason. I was in a meeting.
Okay. Hold on 1 second.
People that I can't tell you about, but
yeah, okay.
The information was changed.
Chicago's not getting audio from you, so give me 1 second, and I will forward that to them. Hopefully, we'll be able to remedy that in 1 second. And in terms of, we will get a kind of a major update on things there. I was discussing during the last little bit, and let's see, both of these should be on. Can you check for me, Philip, and say something?
Yep, sure. Test 1, 2, 3. I'm seeing levels on my side.
Okay. Then let's see. We'll go back to this business. That should be a little better. Yeah.
Helpful. Is that any better?
Yep, it's great. So, one of the issue though is that they won't hear me. So I will fix that and just you can't hear me. They won't be able to hear me in this, but we'll work it out. I'm figuring it out. We're getting it. We're covered. Okay, cool. So, and Johnny Million's joining us back in 1 second. I will bring everybody in. It's just a gathering of everybody. There we go. And I've got Philip in here. Oops, hold on. I've got to put Philip in this picture real quick. And then there we go. Philip's joining us now in Lviv. Just came from a meeting he can't talk about, which is very exciting. That in and of itself.
I like that.
Yeah, it's very impressive. But give us an update, if you can, on the circumstance that's going on right there, in Lviv. What's the generalized demeanor? I know people are coming back into the country as the Russians are pulling out. There's traffic jams going back to Kiev. Catch us up. Philip, can you hear? Yeah. Oh, and that's funny. Now I don't hear him. That's fun. Hold on. That's on my end. Hold on 1 second. We will figure this all out. It's going to be a good time. I'm not worried about it. Okay, there we go. Go ahead. No, I'm not hearing Philip all of a sudden. There he is. I hear Johnny.
That's me.
Yep. I just don't hear Philip. So we'll work on that. It's a coordination of things. It's a cacophony of craziness. Do me a favor, Philip. Hang up and call right back. That seems to be one of the issues. It might just be the weird mix of internet stuff that occurs. So, do me a favor and just hang up and call right back on the service, and we'll get you in here.
How about that?
Oh, look at that. I heard that. There you go.
Okay.
That's something.
Okay. It was my headphones.
I see. Gotcha. Okay, good. All right. That's, it's always an issue. It's not
always
nothing
the little thing. Yeah.
That's right.
Small
Nothing to be issue.
All that fun stuff.
There you go.
Nothing to be ashamed. Happens to everybody.
Happens to every man at our age. Okay. Go ahead. So catch us up on.
Okay. So because I'm only catching you at the end here. I'm just going to tell you, lots of people coming back. Lots of traffic going out of Lviv. I have people that have come here today from the east, and they reported to me that it's just a line of green vehicles, meaning kind of that army green, headed in the other direction, going east from western Ukraine.
Right.
A lot of refugees coming back. A lot of people feeling that it's safe enough to come back to various locations within Ukraine.
Right.
So a lot of that's going on. And there's a weird atmosphere in town. One of the reasons I'm late, Hal, is because I was having dinner with a contact of mine that I can't. It's going to sound more conspiratorial and nefarious than it is, but it's basically just journalism 101. I don't want to burn a contact by telling you who I was meeting with.
Right.
But it's somebody who knows what's going on militarily here. And was imparting an awful lot of information to me that there have been a lot of things going on in Lviv that I was heretofore not aware of.
Okay.
This town is much more active in terms of coordinating the international military response than we have known. There have been people in this town for quite some time that thankfully the Russians didn't know, or if they knew, they decided not to do anything about it. Who have been coordinating, especially after Bucha.
Right.
Bucha was a moment, I think, when the international community decided, okay, enough is enough. We can't just ignore the war crimes that are happening outside of Kiev and around the country. And the fact that it is now on every screen and on every front page means we have to respond. So there have been people in this town for longer than I was aware of it, but certainly since Bucha, that have been coordinating the international response and the best way to give the weaponry to the Ukrainians that they're going to need to do what they have to do. And in addition to that, are aware of the situation on the Russian side of the equation more so than we thought we knew. And the story on the Russian side of things is far worse than even what is in public in the public sphere.
In terms of the damage to their forces and deaths,
their unit cohesion, their command and control, their communications. In fact, this isn't something I learned at this meeting that I was at, but it's something I wanted to mention to you. I don't know if you saw the press briefing from the spokesperson of the Russian Foreign Ministry, Maria Zakharova. Yesterday.
Oh yes. Right, what she was talking about how you can't make borscht and they had to invade Ukraine because of cookbooks.
Yeah, they wanted. They wanted. Well, not. I mean, she has since said, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has since said, "Oh, it was dark humor. She was employing dark humor."
That's like Trump saying he was being sarcastic about. Right. I don't know why it would be Russia. Right.
Yeah, I know Maria Zakharova.
Okay.
I've known her personally since the Iranian negotiations. When I was working for Al Jazeera America, I was their foreign correspondent.
Wow.
I was in Geneva when Lavrov was their point man when it came to negotiations for the nuclear treaty, the disarmament treaty.
Ugh.
So she was his travel press secretary, and
that poor woman.
She would hobble around in 8-inch stiletto heels and a micro miniskirt, and there was a reason. Sergei Lavrov is lots of things, but he's a bit of a playboy.
Just yuck. And
there's much.
I mean yuck. But I always pity women in those situations where you're either or in life just sucks. But anyway, so she. For those of you,
we could talk about.
Yes, no doubt.
That, but that's not relevant to the point.
Right.
What's relevant to the point is that I saw that press conference yesterday.
Right.
And I heard her talking about this whole Borscht thing. And the only reason I mentioned the fact that I've known her since, what was that? The negotiations were in like 2012.
Yeah, 2012.
2011, 2012, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's how long I've known Maria Zakharova.
Right.
So I know her speech pattern.
Yes.
I don't want to say she was clearly drunk, but there was something off about her speech pattern, her cadence, everything. If the spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is impaired and is still conducting press conferences, there is something very, very wrong in the state of Denmark.
Yes, everybody's hammered. Everybody's a mess. Everybody's collapsing.
And they're all falling apart. They're all collapsing. I have some anecdotal stories that I could tell about people that I know in Russia that are all starting to realize, hey,
Right.
we might be the bad guys, and also we may be losing really, really
Yeah.
bad.
Which they are, which brings us to that topic. Let me see. We got 3 minutes before we have to hit a break. So the effective retreat of Russian forces from the western part of the country and the abandonment of the attack on Kiev, which seems to be the case here, and the idea that they're pulling back so they can hit the place with a tactical nuke, or they're just going to send bombers in, or any of that garbage, is, I think, nonsense. And I think Russia's only option in their mind is, this was always a salami slice endeavor. We got a huge chunk of the eastern side of the country, and we're going to get this whole puffed out region that we've been fighting over for the last few years and secure that and declare that an autonomous region of our own, the areas around Donbass and Luhansk and the like. Which by the way, I don't think is going to happen. I don't think they're just going to be able to move into that area and say it's ours now, because I think the Ukrainians have had it. I think there's a very strong chance they're going to say, you know what, you can't have Crimea either. We're taking it back. I do think, with the support of all the NATO countries and the United States, basically saying, we'll give you as many arms as you could ever want.
Why am I here, Hal?
Sorry. But that's my theory. Yeah.
You're there. You tell me. I'm teasing you because you're absolutely right, and we have 2 minutes. So I'm gonna just make a couple of really quick.
Well, 2 minutes and a half hour. It's not a huge rush. Remember, we're halfway through.
I know, but
yes.
I want to hit on that point because
what
Russia doesn't realize, and what I think a lot of people globally don't realize, and that includes people in the West and includes people in the States.
Yeah.
The difference now is that Russia doesn't get to decide the course of this war anymore.
Nope.
They are not in control. They don't get to call the shots. The Ukrainians do. And actually, to be fair, also so does NATO. NATO is going to use Ukraine to kneecap Russia in a way that we never could have done if we'd gone directly at them.
Right.
This is catastrophic for them. And and no matter what they think is going to happen with the rest of this war, they're not in control anymore. They've lost the narrative. They've lost the ability to dictate.
They've lost the moral high ground. They've lost their tactical advantage. They've lost the lost the illusion of military superiority, and that's the worst. That's more than
Just wait.
Yeah.
All this talk of it being like a war of attrition and there being a static war like there was in Donbass. I have spoken to some people within the Ukrainian military and within Ukrainian sources, and they said, nope, we did that. We did that for 8 years.
Yeah.
Where we sat on a demarcation line, and we had this just war of attrition kind of thing, this constant, like, we're not going to do that again. This time we're going to take it to them. We're going to push them out of X, Y, and Z. I won't go into full details, but you can take a stab at it.
Yeah.
And you won't be wrong.
Thank you. I appreciate your belief in me.
They've done that. The attitude I'm getting from the Ukrainians is, we did that for 8 years. Been there, done that, got the T-shirt, not going to do it again.
Right.
This time we're not going to sit in trenched warfare, lines of demarcation. This is going to be mobile.
Let's hold that thought for a second. Let's take a break, because I'm curious about that move. I think that is the biggest story moving forward, is the fact that the Ukrainians are going to be on the march. We'll be back with Philip Bittner's live in Lviv, which is a mouthful to say. That's a lot of L's and V's in a very short order.
I like it.
Johnny Million is...
I'll change my name for you.
Yes, Johnny Million is checking in on the chat on infotainmentwars.com and is able to relay chat questions and the like to Philip as well. So we'll have more of those when we come back. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. Welcome back to the show. Philip and I are obviously still in conversation, as we do during the break, just kind of ongoing. And Johnny Million is looking at... That's okay. No. It's because there's so much to talk about.
Sorry to the audience.
No. So the one of the things I'd like to address is what we were touching on during the break, though, for the audience on the radio, is this idea that after, in 2014, when Russia basically saw itself losing space because Yanukovych was on the way out, Poroshenko was not going to be on their side, and then ultimately Zelensky would be the full transition into Ukraine moving up and being a European country that can stand on its own 2 feet, equal to, in many ways, Germany, France, and other countries eventually, because of its resources, because of its people, because of its history. It would definitely reach into that Putin had sort of in his own mind, he had to undercut that as much as possible. Keep him out of NATO by creating a border dispute and just fight and fight and fight and keep that mess going, and that'll keep him out. Once this started, though, we're now in a much more all or nothing situation. And tell me about the feeling about the isolation of and the dismissal of from the world stage Russia as a country.
It's devastating. Mm-hmm. Devastating. I mean, I have so many Russian friends, and I love them dearly as individuals.
Okay.
And I don't want to go too deeply into some of their personal.
Nope. Hold on 1 second. Same kind of audio issue that we had. It's so much fun when Chicago goes on this thing. There we go. Hopefully that'll get it now. Can you check for me, Philip?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you.
1, 2, 3. Sorry.
Cool. No, it's okay. It's just the nature of so many levers.
Hey,
yeah.
Cisco, Pilholo, yes, they do in numbers that we don't even know about, and it will be shocking when it comes to play. Cisco was asking about Harpoon missile systems. Yep, they got them. Officially, we know from open sources that the Brits have delivered them. What we don't know in open source, and which I can't really talk about in a great extent, is just how many Harpoons they have.
Right.
But we're gonna find out pretty soon.
Well, one of the things that Blinken mentioned, and that has been common knowledge, is that we're looking in the area of, they started with initially an order of 10 javelins for every tank the Russians have, not in country, in their arsenal. That includes tanks that are parked somewhere halfway across Siberia, that are in crap shape. This week on my live stream, and I think you might have seen it, Philip, there was a picture of a tank that was left behind.
The barrel?
And the barrel on it was completely rusted out. This was something that had been sitting for maybe a week. It had been blown up, but the damage to it that stood out to me was not that the tracks were blown off, not that the top had been hit with a javelin missile, but the barrel itself was rotten, effectively. Yeah. In many ways, just like the tires on the troop transports and the food transports and the fuel transports that have been breaking down all across Ukraine. Because, and this is what I would like you to speak to in terms of the corruption problem that has always been alleged about Ukraine, but Russia has in spades. Because it seems like somebody is siphoning money off into their own pocket from the deep sixth elements of the Russian military that they never thought they were going to use. And this caught them off guard.
Yeah. They really thought that they were going to stroll in here. They had no idea how hard the Ukrainians have been training. I mean, even to the point of the Ukrainians were so prescient about what was going to happen that they rotated their entire army. Their entire military was rotated to the front so that every single Ukrainian unit at least had some time hearing shots fired in anger and knew what it was like to be in combat. And they purposely rotated their entire military, their entire land forces, territorial army, professional army, all the rest of it, to spend at least some time at the front. So when this war happened, when shots started getting fired, they didn't freak out. But on the other side, the Russians used the same doctrine that they've always done, which is in the build-up to a war, you just put an army out in a field and let them sit there. And that's why they had rotted tires. That's why they have guys running around in tennis shoes instead of boots. That's why they were left out to the elements for months when that period that we've talked about so many times, in that kind of like, no, they're just exercises. Don't worry. And they just left them out in a field. Well, that's fine if you can support them. Like we build 10 cities. We built 10 cities in the middle of a desert. If Russia did that, with the same doctrine that they employed in the build-up to this invasion, and left a bunch of soldiers. If we had left a bunch of soldiers out in the desert in Kuwait in the run-up to the invasion of Iraq, they would not have performed nearly as well as they did. And say what you want about that war, our troops were ready to go when it was time to kick off.
All of them, all the time. The readiness of the U.S. force is extraordinary worldwide.
Whereas the Russians just left them out in a field. And so when they said, okay, it's go time, they were like, we've been sitting in a rotten field for 3 months. Everything is falling apart. And that was just the initial, that was supposed to be their shock troop element.
Right. That was shock and awe. That was their Donald Rumsfeld was telling their George Bush that it's going to be awesome. Couple of days, and they're going to people are going to be sticking flowers in our barrels and glad to see us. They're going to greet us as liberators. Remember that stupid crap? Yeah, they fell for it too.
I was embedded with the U.S. military during the invasion of Iraq.
Right.
There were an awful lot who were like, "Yay, save us from Saddam!" And then a year later, we're like, "Hey, you left all our buildings blown up, and there are all these crazy jihadis and criminals. Can you bring some order to this, please?"
Which they did, right? And that's absolutely when we shifted and why it became a long haul. That is the difference between the U.S. in Afghanistan for all of its flaws,
or Iraq,
or Iraq, and Russia in Afghanistan. Because Russia in Afghanistan, again, leveled half of all cities and villages. They killed people in all the other ones, but 50% of the cities and villages in Afghanistan were destroyed, leveled to the ground when they came in. And this is the same strategy they were going with in Ukraine. They have learned nothing not since 2014, since the Afghanistan war in 1979.
We look at the difference between a town like Kharkiv or Mariupol, and look at Baghdad or Basra. You can say what you want about the way the NATO conducts a war, but look at the before and after shots of Baghdad after the American invasion, before the American invasion. We hit what we intended to hit, generally. Now, I'm not going to get into a whataboutism or a equivalent argument, but at the end of the day, we don't flatten entire apartment blocks and entire city blocks of, thousands and thousands. We don't just cluster bomb places. We don't, Again, I don't want to go into an equivalency argument.
Well, and we don't, by the way, increasingly,
look at what the Russians did.
Right, we don't increasingly because the American people won't put up with it. There may have been a period where the McNamaras of the world or the Kissingers of the world thought that's a completely reasonable strategy. And there may have even been people in the military and others who were looking at the threat, and it was so ratcheted up in their mind that they thought that's a reasonable response to have. In World War II, for example. But since then, since Vietnam, there has been, the American people have no appetite for that kind of stuff. We just do not. And as much as, the Dick Cheneys of the world would have rathered we did, and that we were all get a flutter about shock and awe, we didn't, and we don't. Whereas the Russians don't care if the Russian people...
They haven't heretofore, but I think they're starting to, because I'm starting to hear from Russians that they are starting to twig to the fact that, one, this isn't going well, and two, that their forces have been not been acting all that honorably. They have filled their military, and these are just conscripts. We've talked about this before, so I won't go into great length, but we have talked about how their conscripts are basically just thugs they take off of the streets of like provincial towns who have nothing better to do than like burn tires and drink vodka in the middle of the day and all that kind of stuff. There's not a lot of life and future.
If you want to know who they are, go watch Russian gang street fights.
Exactly.
There's videos upon video.
They filled their minds. They filled their minds with so much of this, like everybody's a Nazi thing, that they are going into these villages of 2, 3, 5, 10,000 people even, and they're going in and they're saying, "Okay, bring us your Nazis." And these villages are going, "We have no idea what you're talking about." And so, instead of going, "Hey, maybe there aren't Nazis here," they're saying, "The entire village is hiding their Nazis. Therefore,
they're Nazis."
Complicit, And so they started killing a bunch of people, and
Right.
it's just nuts. And I want to get to Johnny's questions because I love it, and I'm so sorry it's truncated, but I had to have that meeting. But I just want to reiterate the point that I was making during the break there, so that your larger audience hears. Whatever you are hearing from the Department of Defense or even the administration, and I'm not saying that they're lying. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that there's a difference in messaging that's coming out domestically within the states than what I'm hearing here. The idea that this is going to be a long war and this is going to be a protracted war, that's not going to happen. This is going to be a quick war. It's going to be a mobile war. The Ukrainians refuse to fall back into a static position where they're fighting a war of attrition. That's not going to happen. And because of the way things are on the ground here, the Russians don't get to dictate how this thing goes. The Ukrainians will. So
let's take a break.
A lot more quick and a lot more violent and kinetic.
Yeah, the next couple of days are probably going to be some of the highest casualties of the war as they push into the eastern areas. And it's going to be,
when this kicks off, it's going to be nuts.
Yes, and there's a reason for that, and it involves avoiding nuclear war. And I will talk about that as well on the other side of this break when we come back, and we'll have some questions from the chat that Johnny will bring up. You're listening to the House Parks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Now with 100% more, Johnny Million and Philip Ittner. We'll be back.